listen, I really don't care about the sports stuff either way. If the studies conclusively come out that transgender women don't actually have an advantage, despite some of y'all looking big and burly and with humongous biceps, fine. I don't care. Compete for all I care. I think from an optic standpoint, it looks bad. I'm not changing my opinion on that, and we can keep moving. If y'all want to go play and be 5 women dominating a women's volleyball team, basketball team, football team, have it. I don't care. Do your thing. I just don't think it follows any common sense, but I love it for you. Okay, Danny, how was your weekend? Tell me all about it.
My weekend was very chill. So, like, I'm still so sick from a few weeks ago that,
Oh,
yeah, like, it's bad. I'm like sweating through my sheets, and that's like a nightly occurrence for me. I'm starting to feel a lot better. I finally made it back to the gym after like 2 weeks. But keeping it pretty chill. So, Friday night, I don't think I did anything. Um, Yesterday, so I told you how my friend Felix is still in a boot from when we went to Colombia, which was all the way back in
yep.
September. Um, he can't go to a bar with his big old boot and the crutches, and just wouldn't work well in a Boston bar. So
Yeah.
we pulled something off my high end wine rack last night, and then we just watched Fallout. Are you gonna watch that?
Fallout. Okay. I have not watched it. Should I?
I thought it was pretty good. So I don't play video games at all, and it's based on the video game. So I think if you're into video
Okay.
games and like the Fallout video game series, you'll enjoy it. We watched like 2 or 3 episodes, but I thought it's good so far. How about you?
Nice. All right. I had a pretty fun weekend. Oh God, my nose is running again. Team, like, I'm so sorry, but my nose is always running. So, um, on Friday, I went to a like LGBT networking event. Oh my God, I got to tell you about something. Dear God. Okay. So, went to this event and when you go to these events, I go month to month, it's LGBT, you end up seeing the same people
Hmm.
all the time, right? And there are people that you like party with sometimes, there are people that you get dinner with sometimes, and then there's people that you just like see around, acquaintances, whatever. So there's this man there that is always there, and I think he's a totally nice person. um Anime guy. Okay, so imagine an anime guy and somebody that does not pick up on social cues.
Okay. I got the image in my mind. Vivid.
Yes, so stage 5 clinger. Okay, and that's all fine and good, except for the fact that this person smells awful. And I'm talking like there's like a fishy stench going around. It's probably BO, and I'm not sure like what it is, but it's like consistently like that every time. Okay, so we're all perfectly nice to him, but you know we're not friends. And so, I like to do things in small groups and stuff like that. And, I like this person. A lot of my friends don't, and that's fine. So what happens when we go to this group is this person will hang around us and try to kind of like latch onto plans after. And uh, that's, I don't want that. And so he tried the other day. I was like trying to like run past him so I could leave in peace, right? So I'm like power walking. There's like 50 people. I'm like pushing through them, whatever, and I'm right at the door. All of a sudden, he runs up behind me, taps me on the shoulder. I go turn around. I'm like, hey, and he goes, hey. So any afters after this? And I go, yeah, we're going to my friend's house. And then the dreaded question comes. He goes, can I come? And I felt like time slowed down. I did the thing where I'm like, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth next, which happens to me a lot. And I go, no. And he goes, oh, why? And I go, oh God, what a question. I blame it on my friend. I'm like, yeah, he's not comfortable with people over at his place. And this guy's feelings were obviously hurt. And I felt so bad. But as the night went on, I didn't regret it because you don't want to be around people you're just not friends with when you're hanging out like that all night. What would you have done in my situation?
Um, I would say probably the same thing. Like, my friend isn't comfortable with like people that he doesn't know. Does your friend know this person that you went to the house with?
We all, yeah. So we all know this person. We all know this person. I think he has his own friends. We'll like hang out with them when we're at the thing, but
Mm,
it's not like, it's just one of those things where like, I don't know.
got it. So what I would say is it's like for a birthday party or like some other friend from another friend group. So like there's that cohesiveness that he wouldn't fit into, and he's not going to pick up on that social cue. But like I
Yeah.
think in that situation, that's probably the best way to go, um, because you don't want someone like that. You can't be brutally honest with. Like honesty is often the best policy, not always. Um,
Yeah.
and you really need to be gentle with people like that. And I have so much empathy for a situation like that, and like you want to be friendly to a person.
I do. And I personally don't have an issue with this person. I'm thinking about like, what do I say? How do you tell somebody they smell bad? I feel like I was going through this last night. I was like, what if I sent him an anonymous message being like, hey, every time I see you at this event, like it ain't good. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I feel like I owe it to him to say something about that too, because it could help him like in the long run. Would you bring that up? And how would you if you
Do you
did?
think this would be too flirtatious? So like lead into this story about let's concoct this story. You are shopping and you saw this bottle of cologne and you thought to yourself like, wow, X individual, you look like you would wear this cologne. You smell, I think you would, this like smell like fits your persona. Have you ever heard of it?
Girl, let me just say this, okay? As an Indian person, I have dealt with some smell issues in the past, and my people, what they tend to do
Mhm.
after they realize that they smell bad is douse themselves in another smell, not understanding that they not only smell like that perfume, they still smell like whatever they started with. So I know from personal experience that's what he would do. I think I have to be blunt and say something. I think that's like what the move is.
How do you think he's going to respond to that?
Probably not well, but sometimes just because you have big emotions doesn't mean it wasn't worth it for you to get feedback. I mean, you're an athlete, you know what it is.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you had to be yelled at and, told something brutally honest. And that's kind of something that like you and I talk about on this podcast, like the truth hurts, life is hard, get a helmet. Like we need to make sure that we're telling the truth so people can be better, not because we're trying to be mean or whatever. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, I think if you're coming from that perspective and it really, like, if that narrative, like, really shines through the way you deliver this message, then I think it will be okay. But then again, I don't know. Anime guy who doesn't have any social cues.
Well, I mean, if I didn't like the person, I would say you smell like a rotten can of tuna. But whatever. We'll see how it comes out. I think I was as diplomatic as I possibly could be, and I intend on maintaining that
Yeah, and
diplomacy.
I think you just gotta roll the dice, right? You never know how it's gonna turn out until you play the cards. So um, yeah, it could go completely different than how we think it's gonna happen.
The other thing that I, was doing all this weekend is having an anxiety attack over the stuff that's happening in Iran and Israel. What do you think about all that stuff?
Dude, it feels like if you just pull one thread, the entire world is gonna fall apart. Like
Yeah.
that's how it feels to me right now. Um, yeah, that shit's scary. So Israel attacked an embassy building of
Yep.
Iran's. That was last week, right?
Yep. And they killed a like a high-ranking general, basically.
Okay. And then Iran gives like this 8 hour warning to the world that they're going to send in these drones. So it's kind of like like it was a half-assed launch, it seems like to me, where
That's what I'm hoping.
they get the street cred for it with all the Axis powers, all their homies. But yeah, and it was just half-assed. But like US, UK, Germany, they all jumped in to deflect these drones, these suicide drones. And if this escalates further, Iran's gonna figure out real quick why you and I don't have free healthcare here in America.
'Cause Yeah, because all that money goes to war weapons. That's why, for sure. I agree with that assessment. I think it might have been like a symbolic move to be like, we're not just gonna allow somebody to kill a general with impunity.
Yeah.
But there's no telling. Like this is like there's a lot of countries embroiled into one battle. And by the way, I saw that we were trying to add Ukraine to NATO or something like that. I mean, that pulls in the entire gang. So it's a very tenuous situation in the world right now. I think a little bit more tenuous than what we've seen in years. I mean, during the Trump years, we were in Libya and Syria was falling apart. Egypt was falling apart. So there's a lot of stuff happening in those times. There's almost a Palestinian Israeli type of conflict every 5 or 6 years, but this feels a little bit intense for me.
So there's a lot of anti-Israeli sentiment in the United States right now. Do you think anyone was supporting that attack on Israel, or everyone is pretty much standing in solidarity with the state of Israel?
What I have gathered based on social media is the general mood is, yeah, of course they shot something back after they were attacked, and a little bit of like at least somebody's defending the Palestinians. So I think that's that's not like sentiments I've ever heard about Iran before. Typically, like liberals and conservatives alike are like their government is crazy. But this time, it seemed like there's justification. And what scares me about that is there's a lot of dissent for the U.S. defending Israel in America right now, for the most part, like across the aisle. And I think that's going to incentivize the US to to censor social media even harder than it is right now, including getting rid of TikTok. So I'm really worried about that on a selfish level as well.
It's yeah, it's pretty scary, and I think this means more attacks on our troops in the Middle East too.
Yeah. Oh God, I hope not. Please, God, no.
And then I saw another story that Iran they targeted an Israeli um, affiliated cargo ship, and I think that happened
Yeah,
yesterday or this morning. Or
they're hitting them where it hurts. I just like I'm frustrated because if Israel just like stopped the like genocidal attacks like 2 months into it after whatever their response, like everything would be like pretty quiet. So it just feels like they are agitating like a conflict that doesn't need to happen.
you and I are both 32, so we were second, third, fourth grade in 2001. I was thinking about this last night. We've experienced something big, like every few years since 2001. Like we had 9/11, Iraq War, financial collapse, LeBron going to the Miami Heat, uh, Donald Trump getting elected, COVID. There's a like it's a constant cycle. Like just give us a break. Give us millennials a break.
Well, I'm a very witchy girl, and what I will tell you is that we have left the age of Pisces, basically, when religion and atheism were grappling and we were thinking about traditional faith. We've left that age, and we are now in the age of Aquarius.
Okay.
And Aquarius is known for radical, radical, radical change, different ideas. We're about to get our cheeks clapped hard by Aquarius. We're like, I think 100 years or so in the finding of the invention of electricity happened during this, the invention of the iPhone, the invention of the TV, now the invention of hyper intelligent AI. So it's about to get crazier. This is like the quietest it will be. I'm a big astrology girly and mama is scared, honey. But another thing that I'm excited about though is I hear some astrologers saying that it will be the age of feminine power, which I hope is the case. But then I look at some stuff that our government is doing and I'm like, are we actually just going to be a part of like the American Taliban, Project 2025? I don't know.
I think that's a good segue into everyone's favorite news linchpin. Uh, Donald Trump, his criminal trial is starting tomorrow in New York. What are your thoughts on that?
What are my thoughts on that? I think it is reprehensible that we have a man that was impeached, that was indicted on multiple charges, that instigated a coup attempt and a very bad one at that. It is strange to me that that is a front runner of the Republican Party. And I am like also appalled that all of this is going on and he's still in consideration for like being the actual president. Like there's an actual chance that he could be president. And that is extremely jarring to me because I'm like, does the truth matter anymore? Like, what's going on here?
For conservatives in 2024, what do you think's a bigger issue for them and why they are backing MAGA and why MAGA has consumed or just the Republican Party and the right wing as we know it? Do you think their number one issue is cultural or is it economic?
I think that people don't like to read, they don't like to research, and people like to vote and behave based on vibes. And the vibes are things are expensive, I can't afford things. Also, the libs have won all of these elections. Also, I'm tired of using the correct pronouns, even though I'm never required to in any capacity online. It is scary watching people getting canceled because I've done so many things that are wrong and bad, and I think it's like a big reaction to all of those super emotional, irrational things. And, it's at the expense of our country doing better economically, stocks and bonds and all those things performing well, stability, all of those things. I think people vote based off of vibes and not doing a lot of research. And they want the vibes back where they can be openly hateful and racist and all of those things. And so Donald Trump is like the manifestation of I don't give a fuck what liberals say about me. I'm going to say whatever I want. And that's why people vote for him. So here's my question. How do you think the left has contributed to the bad vibes of the current political system?
I think on the forefront of the bad vibes, it's cultural. And let me explain why. So, think of our political system here in America as a pendulum swing. So, we had something like MAGA and the January 6th riots, And when something like that happens, obviously a huge historic event, um, there's going to be a greater force that tries to react to that. And that's what happened with the left's response. But the problem is that this cycle just continues. So to that response, you're going to get an even greater response from the right. And we just keep spiraling out of control. And that's why I think you see that no one can agree on anything. And everything has become political, every single opinion. And you're automatically branded as a bigot, transphobic, homophobic, a leftist, a commie, or ultra MAGA if you don't fall into that index card of allowable opinion. If you don't prescribe to an opinion that's on that index card, you're out. You're canceled. And I think that's one of the things that the left has done a little bit more than the right. I mean, we've experienced it in the past few weeks since starting this podcast.
Yeah, I would say I fully agree with that. I think one of the things that the left really did is suppress people from trying to express themselves very honestly online. I think that's like one of the biggest like cultural contributions to this current environment. I remember when I was little, I would be around these like Christian kids, and if I said God, they would always be like, "Hey, you can't say that. Don't say God's name in vain." That's what they used to always say. So there was this like
Mm-hmm.
weird sort of suppression thing that I was just brought up around. And then, of course, as we transitioned into early adulthood, you and I being 32, all of a sudden you can't say gay, you can't say the R word, you can't say the N word. And I think all of those things are great, but to people who are accustomed to saying all of those things, they felt like they couldn't say those things and even more. And so it's definitely a pendulum swing and reaction. And I think that the result, an interesting result of it, is that the younger generation is coming out more crass and more blunt. One of the things that was interesting, I went to a comedy show this weekend, and the comic that I went and saw called things gay like 20 or 30 times. And I have not heard that in a while. So calling things gay is coming back. He used the word retard multiple times. I mean, it's like the pendulum swing is back, and it's weird.
It is weird. And do you think Americans have become habituated to the way like these people act? So you and I would say we're both center left,
Yeah.
right? Contrary to popular belief,
Yes.
center left. And the way these like the MAGA crew acts, it's become normalized.
Yeah, and it's ratchet. It's like not classy. It is not as, I mean, it's not diplomatic. It's not kind. Um, I don't know. It just seems very lowbrow, and I think a lot of people being able to express themselves on the internet has brought that. And hopefully, we can educate ourselves into behaving like people who give a fuck about our country and democracy again pretty soon here. But I think if I was betting, I would bet that things are going to get worse before they get better because deep fakes are going to be in deep proliferation on social media. I mean, I go on Facebook, and the amount of boomers that I see fawning over obviously AI pictures that are not even super well done is really concerning to me. And once we can have really strongly um, edited and realistic AI videos of politicians, that's gonna be a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, you can't believe anything
Yeah,
now. I automatically just like, oh, I don't believe it. Like, Drake released a diss
yeah,
track yesterday, and I was like, oh, this is AI. And I'm like, I'm not going to believe it until like he officially releases it from his account. because it was a leak.
It was a great diss track too. People were raving about it online. I liked it. I would play that, and it got taken down. So I'm curious about did YouTube catch on to the fact that it was AI? Did Drake get his lawyers and he's going to release it? Like that was shocking to me to see the discourse about it online.
So it is a real track. It got re-released with like a different beat and some other things in there. In the original one, there was a line about Rick Ross and Diddy, but I don't think that made it into the re-released diss track. I thought it was pretty good too. I still think he's the king of the cornballs, but like I thought it was pretty good. Um, Metro Boomin and Future came out with a second album this weekend too. Is it we still don't trust you? Like, okay, guys, it's starting to feel like Regina George and Mean Girls here. Like, do you guys really need like 20 people from the music industry to team up on Drake? I feel like if you have 20 people teaming up against you to write a diss album, like you already won.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it just feels weird. And Future has always been like just I do not like him. I do like some of his music, but I'm like big loser energy. Don't forgive him for what he did to Sierra. He is childish and petty and he's in his 40s. Like you got to hang it up. I think I don't know. I don't think anybody in this story is a good guy except for maybe like I like Kendrick, I like J. Cole, but Future definitely comes off embarrassingly to me.
Oh my god. J. Cole, I don't think is invited to the party anymore.
Yeah.
Like stepping back like that at his concert and then he jumped on a diss track on We Still Don't Trust You.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like, yeah, yeah. I forget the name of the song that he was on, but yeah, he was on the album. I feel like if in this scenario you need to stick with your original side.
Yeah,
Like you can't be flip flopping like
I
that.
agree. That is really interesting. Wow. Shout out to those guys entertaining us.
There was a really good one on there by The Weeknd, and I was like, wow, Drake is getting dissed in falsetto, and it was like a really good diss.
Yeah,
So,
people are going down.
um, so I feel like this is overall pretty good for music, though. Like this is gonna be good. I just don't want to see the 1 on 20 bullshit. Like, come on, this is 2004 Mean Girls.
Yeah, I mean, this is what rap is about, right? Like, in rap is one of the only genres where you could talk about money and sex and, attack people in a way that is very, very direct and saturated. And I think it's the best thing about rap. It's kind of like a sport. And I think that it's good that all these diss tracks are happening. It's good that nobody's being a crybaby about it. All we need for this to continue being fun is no violence. That would be the preference. Or if there was violence, let's stick to fists and not guns. Like that would be my preference. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, this is very fun and I like it. And then we also were fed so well with the female rappers and all their disses, like Megan and Nikki and other people who got involved. The City Girls were fighting this weekend, and they were all like hashing it out over social media. It was like JT versus Glorilla at first, and then Carisha got back online, and then they were going back and forth, and then Saucy Santana was going back and forth, and I'm like, oh my god! But they called each other because they're real friends and made up, and they didn't diss in the music, which that would have been kind of great, but catastrophic. So everybody in rap is being extremely catty right now, the boys and the girls, and it's very fun.
I'm a fan, big fan. What else is on your mind?
I think that uh, there has been a lot more discussion on transgender athletes. I think they're like officially, what was the athletic body that officially said that transgender athletes are not allowed to, play sports?
I'm not sure. I didn't see that story, but look that up, and while you do, there was an article that I saw on Twitter this morning. The IOC did a study, and granted, I haven't looked at the study yet, so I can't really like give much comment on it. But it says that trans women do not have an advantage in sports. What they found was that cis women are better at cardiovascular activity, um, bone mineral density, which is linked to strength. So 6 degrees of separation is what they're saying. Um, they're about par, and that cisgender women have better lower body strength. So I'm not sure how the data was collected, over what time frames, sample size. There's a lot of factors that I don't know about the study, but that just came out. Compared to the systematic review that we saw the other week from 2021 saying that yes, trans women do experience decreases in a lot of categories for athletic performance, but they're still above levels of cisgender women. So this is a little bit of a conflicting data here. So I'm curious to read the study and see what it's all about.
The organization I was referring to was the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. And so they're gonna bar transgender women from competing in women's athletics like sometime within the next like school year, basically. And you know what? I think, listen, I really don't care about the sports stuff either way. If the studies conclusively come out that transgender women don't actually have an advantage, despite some of y'all looking big and burly and with humongous biceps, fine. I don't care, compete for all I care. I think from an optics standpoint, it looks bad. I'm not changing my opinion on that, and we can keep moving. If y'all want to go play and be 5 women dominating a women's volleyball team, basketball team, football team, have it. I don't care. Do your thing. I just don't think it follows any common sense, but I love it for you.
This collegiate organization, is it made up of schools like Bob Jones University?
I don't know.
Just ultra conservative? It has to be. I couldn't see the NCAA, which is led by Charlie Baker, former Massachusetts governor, doing something like this. So this has to be all Christian schools.
NAIA, NCAA. Let's see. NAIA. Let's see if I can pull up the Wikipedia. Oh, oh. Is an American Collegiate Athletic Conference, football champions, Kearney State, Wayne State, Omaha, the league. So it's like a, oh, it's in the state of Nebraska. Okay, well then,
Oh, okay.
who cares?
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
All right. Love that for them. Trans girlies who play sports, have at it. That's all I gotta say.
One of the villains of trans discourse, Riley Gaines, doesn't actually care about women and protecting women, I don't think. So her former coach at Kentucky was he was convicted, or no, not convicted. There were sexual assault allegations here, and she hasn't come out and commented on it yet, and it's been a few days. So if it's not a trans punching bag, she's not gonna comment on it. That's all she really cares about. It's total grifter move.
Total grifter move. All of those people do not give a shit about any real women's issues. They are constantly bashing on transgender women because that's an easy cultural battle to have. But when it comes to equal pay or, you know, abortion access or sexual assault or Me Too or whatever, they don't show up for those battles. They shit on other women for those battles. So it's only when it comes to punching the freaks, like you said, that they show up, and it's a poor reflection on them. So I fully agree with that. Yeah,
Like Riley Gaines is not a good person,
yeah.
not good at all. And I don't like. what are we putting the odds at? Do we think she's actually going to make a statement on it?
Probably not. She'll probably be asked
No, I don't
about
think
it or
so.
something, and she'll say something weird and dismissive and then keep it moving.
Yeah, just answer another question that was not asked.
Um, so do you want to go into a few questions now?
Yes, our favorite segment of reading questions from Reddit.
Yes, and the first one I'm actually going to play a video, and we know how that goes. So watch your record button carefully while I pull this up.
Am I wrong for cutting my trans sibling out of my life? About 6 months ago, my 30-year-old sibling came out as trans and officially changed their name to something a bit more feminine. From the start I have been as supportive as I know how. I would make sure to do small gestures such as sending them gifts with the transgender flag and their new name on it to show I support and accept who they are. We have had several lengthy phone calls discussing where they are at mentally, frustrations and feelings overall after making friends and family aware of this change. A very common frustration comes from being misgendered or dead named, which I completely understand can be exhausting to correct constantly. There has been a clear effort from family, but it has turned to a single mistake leading to complete outbursts of anger. Fast forward to Thanksgiving, we traveled from out of state and quickly have seen how much of a stress they have been on family that see them every day. There was an incident where my grandpa, who is diagnosed with dementia, fell during Thanksgiving and hit his head. This cut Thanksgiving dinner short as we had to bring him to the ER. Previously before this incident, my grandpa dead named my siblings, so they went into their room for the remainder of the night until other family was gone. I'm not even sure if they were aware of his fall, but they are very aware of him having dementia. Later in the night we spoke again and they said how frustrating it is to be dead named. I cut them off and said they don't have a right to be mad at somebody with dementia. They were now shouting at me saying they need to be able to complain about frustrations without being lectured. After coming to the conclusion that we won't see eye to eye on this, they stormed off. I personally can't take the stress of being made to be the bad guy when I have tried to be nothing but supportive. It is frustrating to me that their identity is the only topic of conversation, and everybody has to tiptoe around them to avoid an argument since they are always looking for areas that will anger them. Any conversation can go from 0 to 100 and I don't feel confident it is going to change. We have circled for hours and hours of discussion, and they also have continued to not seek any therapy to discuss this huge new life change with anybody but close friends and family. For my own mental health, I cannot be on speaking terms until they get further help and improve on their anger issues. So does this make me the jerk?
This one, yeah, this one is spicy. This is a great video. Um, no, they are not the asshole in this situation whatsoever. So my number one tip when you are starting your transition is you need to go to therapy. Like 10 toes down, as you say, like that is the number one thing that you need to do. You have a lot of things that you're going to need to work out, and this is probably going to be the most difficult decision and act that you carry out in your life. So like you need to be talking about those feelings and what you're experiencing with a professional. And like, dude, I am 3 years into my transition now, and I still get dead named by family.
Here's the thing. Baby girls, future baby girls, if you look like Homer Simpson, don't call yourself Marge. That's what it comes down to for me at the end of the day. In my opinion, I think the pronoun change should be the last thing that you do, because if you're running around looking like Homer Simpson and you're calling yourself Marge, you are asking for trauma. People are not going to respect your pronouns because it's not realistic yet for them to do that. A lot of people do not have the capacity. Your grandpa with dementia is not going to have the capacity, and you should not be getting mad at him for not having the capacity. What you should be doing instead is working on your transition so it looks like you're transitioning. You don't have to have a ton of money to do this. All it takes is growing your hair out longer, then starting to do makeup, then wearing more feminine clothes. And you will find as you exude the energy, people will start naturally referring to you as she, her. You're not yet at the point where that makes sense, and you're purposefully agitating everybody around you and putting yourself in a bad situation. That's the worst possible thing you should do. You should be able to transition without traumatizing yourself. And the right way to do it is gradually. And also, you have to have compassion for people around you. Old habits die hard. I don't think that this asker is an asshole at all. I think the transgender person in question is being an asshole. You went too far, you went too fast, and now it's biting you in the
I
ass.
didn't even comment on the dementia thing. Like, that is so unhinged. Like, how are you going to be mad at grandpa with dementia for misgendering you?
Take ownership over yourself, baby girl. Just work on yourself. Like, it's okay. You don't have to lash out on your family because you're not satisfied with how the way that you're looking is coming across. None of us are perfect when it comes to that, and that's okay. You just have to be tough, take the feedback, and do better. That's all it's going to take at the end of the day, and that's what's going to make you happy. You can't browbeat everybody around you into just corroborating with this when they just don't see it yet.
Yeah, and it's important to realize that, like, it's probably still going to happen, like, deep into your transition. Like you said, old habits die hard.
Yeah.
And if they know you for what, like 18 years as one name, it's pretty difficult to go to another. So you give them grace. Give them grace.
Yeah, I just think it's like inconsiderate to give somebody a task that takes that much mental effort. I just don't think it's a nice thing to do. And any trans girl who has 5 or 6 years into their transition and who has been putting in the work will tell you, like, it gets better. So just chill out and don't be so demanding up front.
This is a great segue. I want to ask you a question before we move on. I put on my Instagram story, what is your most controversial opinion? Okay. And someone wrote, the only people who say that passing isn't everything when it comes to trans women are trans women who pass. Your thoughts?
I definitely have seen that, and I understand how it can come off. I think it comes off as condescending. I think it comes off as privileged, and I get all of those things, and I know that's triggering for people, but here's the deal. It's also really similar to when somebody who makes a lot of money tells you that money isn't everything. Yes, it's annoying, but they have experienced both states of mind, and they know for a fact that you're not 50% happier because you pass. I think when it comes down to it, passing is really just giving us the opportunity to experience a normal woman's life, which is not that great in the first place, depending on the type of woman you are in your environment. So that's what they're trying to say when they say that. But I think that statement is definitely true. Okay, so we have another question. So I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. So this is slightly not safe for work, but I'm on my 2nd month of HRT. I gave myself estradiol shots in my thighs once a week and take spironolactone twice daily. I have noticed this past week that my nipples and breasts have become very sore. Is that normal this early on? Are my breasts starting to grow, or is everything more sensitive? I'm sorry, I'm new to this and I don't have any trans people in my life to have these conversations with. So I'm going to pass the mic over to you first, Dani.
Yes, that's called budding. So you are entering your second puberty. Congrats. Yeah, completely normal. What did the comments say? Is there anything like unhinged in there?
There's nothing unhinged in here there. I included this because I wanted to talk about both of our experiences on hormones because I think a lot of baby trans girls would be curious about it. So I got on hormones like a year ago. So this is very new to me. And the first symptom that I noticed on being hormones was that my sex drive took like an immediate hit. And I was almost not interested in any sexual activity, I would say, for at least over a month. And then when I became interested in it again, it was just a little bit different. I didn't want it as much, and I had to be like more turned on than prior to be into it. I experienced some budding at about a month in, and I remember them being really, really sensitive and like I remember like it felt like a little ball of cancer like in my chest basically, and my chest wasn't like a flat male's chest anymore. Um, Also, since that point, they've started to get a little bit bigger, but what I heard from the doctor is that they take about 2 years to fully grow in. And a lot of trans women have like a triple A, which is pretty small. unless they, gain weight and things like that, that can help. But I'm still a very thin girl. And so, yeah, not a huge amount of breast growth. How much did you get naturally before your boob job?
I was probably around that AAA or uh, like just at a B. Um, what's great about a boob job, I don't remember the last time I wore a bra. Like
Yeah.
I just wear bodysuits and stay in place, and like even with a regular t-shirt, like sports bra for the gym, that is it. But probably like a C now. I went very conservative with mine. I'm not into the bimbo look whatsoever. What are you going to get for your boob job?
So first of all, I just want to say I think you look incredible. I think they look like as natural as possible. I think they look appropriate. You look very classy. You should show like edit a picture of your boobs in there if, if you're comfortable doing that. But I think yours look really
Well, thank
good,
you.
and I think I'm leaning towards how yours look like. I'm glad that you said it was a C because I was going to ask you that. I'm going into my first in-person consultation on Monday. And so I'm going to talk to them about the different options. Like you can get like a saline option, you could get silicone. Silicone is higher end and it feels a little bit more natural. You could get a gummy bear like a teardrop breast or like a round one. So I'm going to try to figure all of those out on that day, but I'm leaning towards a C. But at the same time, I'm on camera a lot and I don't, I kind of want to be sexy too. So I'm going back and forth, but I don't want to look like a crazy bimbo because I'm in the business world. You can't be running around like that. Like you look insane. So my question to you is number one, are you satisfied with your size now that you've gone like more conservative? And what kind of like inserts did you get?
So I went with the silicone. So it's just like a jelly material. I forget how many cc's. It was like low 200s. The thing is that
Okay.
it's all they're not going to know how many cc's they can actually do. Like they'll have a range for you, but they're not going to know the exact amount until they actually get in there and cut you open. So
Got it.
because the way the skin stretches, and you don't want it stretched like a drum where you're going to be seeing all your veins
Yeah.
and all of that. So that that would be my 2 cents on it. And I was initially upset. I don't know, upset or just hindsight 2020 kind of thing in that I wish I went bigger, but now that
Oh, really?
but it takes over a year for them to settle. So like now it was a year in March, and I'm very happy with them now. Um,
Oh,
especially the way
wow.
like my body looks now. Um, just the way like from the time that I've spent in the gym, I think it's a good proportion. And um, yeah, I don't I don't regret getting the size that I got. I'm pretty happy with it. Um, just know that like you can always go bigger if you want to. You're gonna have to wait, but like you can always go bigger. And if you want to do the reverse, like your skin is gonna be stretched out um and everything. So
Okay, well, hold on. I want to understand why you were upset when you first got it done. Is it because they were so swollen and they looked really big?
exactly. They were so swollen. I was
Okay.
like, oh wow, is this like how they're gonna look? And then that swelling went down over the course of like 4 to 6 weeks. And then they settled in place. But what's important to remember is that they're gonna be so high up and that's why the doctor said, like, wait a year for them to settle because they're going to drop and they're going to look more natural as time goes on. Um, and that's the look that I wanted the most. I just wanted it to look natural. So
Yeah.
um, now that that year has gone by, like, so happy. And listen to your doctor too. Like, They do this all the time. They've done hundreds of these surgeries. This isn't their first rodeo. So I would take their expert opinion, right? There's a reason you pay for experts higher prices. So I would I would put a lot of consideration into what they have to say about what size you should get.
Okay, that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that, and I will try to take it into consideration. I'm not gonna get like huge tits. I want to still look good in skinny clothing. Like I feel like if you get your boobs done too much, you start to look fat in a lot of clothes. And even though you're still pretty thin, unless you're showing really form-fitting clothes, which I wear a lot of form-fitting stuff, but when I'm in my 40s and 50s, I'm probably not going to want to do that as much. So you got to think long term when it comes to stuff
Yeah,
like that.
and you're definitely thinner than I am and a few inches taller. So like the proportion matters too, right? For your specific body type.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just I think a C for you is probably like a safe bet though.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I do plan on gaining weight over time. Like I'm gonna do the a BBL first, and then I'm gonna allow myself to gain some weight because maintaining this being this thin is not gonna. I love eating too much. I'm like, I'm ready to let it go, but just not yet. Not while I'm still legally single. As soon as I get married or something, babe, I'm about to be shoveling this food in my mouth, and hopefully the fat goes to my ass.
The relationship weight is real. Like
Yeah.
being single the past two-ish year and a half, 2-ish years, like, oh my god, I am in the gym a lot. Um, but
Yeah.
definitely not as much when, I'm in a relationship. That definitely changes. That is real.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. This has been a very great political episode. Hopefully, you learned some things about boob jobs and shit. Um, and we're excited to have you. My name is Nalia. You can find me on TikTok and on YouTube and Instagram as Tranalytics. And Danny, what about you?
You can find me at Danny Fermanak, just my name, on all social platforms.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.
Bye, everyone.